Good morning. Good morning. Just having my coffee now. I'm getting coffee grounds in my coffee. I don't know why. I cleaned that whole thing out yesterday after I saw that, and I still got coffee grounds. Mmm. Mm. Good morning, folks. Happy Thursday morning. Happy Christmas Eve day. I hope you're all. Hey, Audrey. I see you over there. How you doing? How you doing? I'm just gonna type that in too. There you go. Just to show everybody that I can type in. I think what we're going to do, we're going to start off with this members only for a little while, and then we'll open it up to the public. We'll open it all up. 'Cause right now, it's just us. It's just we members only. And you're doing good at 4 a.m. over there in the West, huh? And wow, you've got a lot of work. That's kind of nice. And so, are you actually at work or are you at home? Are you able to work remotely at home? So, you've been working since 3 a.m. Nice. Well, I'm doing okay. Typical, since it's just you and me so far, typical aches and pains and the junk of life, and all of that. So, well, that's kind of good to be working remotely at home, I guess. It's nice to get out and see people. I get that, but sometimes it's nice to not have to go anywhere. So we had a mini blizzard here yesterday. It was pretty crazy. And they are saying that today, or it was last night, I haven't been outside, so I have no idea what it feels like outside, although I can look at it through the window. They were saying that it was 20 up to 20 below zero with the wind chill last night because the wind was so harsh coming out of the northwest. And that's where we get most of our weather from, is the northwest. We get that Arctic dip that comes out of Canada right down into us, which is just right over the line up north of here. So your department's the only department that goes to the office one day a week, and your day is Monday. Well, that's good. At least it's not today. You don't have to go out there today. So, yeah, things are pretty good around here. Life is good. Life is life. Rainey and I are there are those days when you're married and things are good and they look good to other people. And yet there are those days where you go, it's like Rainey. She came home yesterday and she bought me cream for my coffee. I like vanilla creamer. I like to put it in my coffee. And she bought that. And the first thought in my mind is, oh, she does love me. Because, you have those days and those moments where, shut up, you fat cow. And, you arrogant son of a bitch. She'll call me or something like that. It's one I made up. Those are my words. She has different words. So there's those days. So, and you go through that and you're like, oh man. I guess that makes the other days better, but everything feels off some days. I can grab her butt as she walks by. I'm not talking about like goosing her and grabbing her and a piece of skin under my fingernails or anything like that. I'm just, a little pat on the butt. She goes by, and yesterday it was just everything was just flat. There was nothing there. And it's like, whatever. And so it's one of those days, but it's better. So that's good. That's how things are here. There's the reality of life. There's a little bit of this is what life is really like. And, I don't think there's, hey, Roger, good to see you. Good morning, man. Now, there's about a 30-second delay, I think, here on this when I'm going live through YouTube. So if I see you and I say hi, it might seem delayed to you. So, yeah, there are those days. You've been living in one for years now. I'm tired. I hear you, Audrey. I know what that's like. My life's different, of course, than yours, but I mean, I know what it's like. I know from those days and those periods. And I understand where you are, what you're feeling. And, and around here, it, you don't want to be artificial or anything like that, but there's times where we get on the radio and we're not fighting and go from a fight to, hi, it's Rainey and me on the radio when we get on together. But um, there are times where you go, man, why are we acting right now very differently than we did when we were on radio 2 hours ago or something like that? Why does it seem so different sometimes? And, that's because you always put your best foot forward, and we want to be authentic. We want to be real. We want people to see what we're like. And so, we're thinking of doing some segments where we bring some of our issues into the public, so to speak, and maybe just keep it on the exclusive part of these shows where we together will sit down. Okay, here's an issue we had. How do you guys deal with these issues? How do you resolve these kinds of things? And so we're thinking about maybe doing that just for fun, to be able to have fun, to be able to say, this is an issue that we'll never resolve together. How do you guys resolve these issues? And some of those, I can't even off the top of my head think of what those issues are. But every couple has those kinds of things. Everybody has those where you're with your spouse or your significant other, or, and I hate those terms. It's just be nice to not have to have 50 genders to deal with and 50 different situations, just to say you and your partner, you and your person, the stuff you go through, how do you deal with the things of life? And how do you resolve your unresolvable issues? And should unresolvable issues be issues that are, what was the old term for divorce? Irreconcilable differences. You know what? I'm not a believer in irreconcilable differences. I believe that the only irreconcilable difference is not realizing that there's an irreconcilable difference. Or that, how can I say this without contradicting myself? I'm sounding like I'm double talking, and not really. I'm saying I don't really believe that there are unresolvable issues. I don't believe those should be problems for anybody. If you have unresolvable issues, you have unresolvable issues. Move on from them. Don't make those issues be the things that govern your relationship or who you are. Hey, Carly, by the way, if you're out there, I saw Audrey say, morning, Roger and Carly. So, oh yeah, the blizzard up here, by the way, switching topics dramatically. I look at what happened yesterday. We got about 8 inches of snow, something like that. And it blew hard all day. I mean, flags were straight sideways out on my front patio, and the wind was, I was actually watching, I was sitting in the car waiting, and I'm looking at the snow, and it was going literally, not even slanted, it was sideways, straight horizontal. And yet you could go outside, you could walk in it. It wasn't like it was blowing you over, or you'd have to have fear of being blown down the street. But it was blowing sideways. And so we had quite a day yesterday. It was our first real taste of winter this year. I mean, we've had some snow, but then it melts off because it warms up again. And so yesterday, it hit us pretty hard yesterday. So anyway, there, I'm just seeing myself in the camera. I look pasty today. Ugh. Might just be, waking up early and stuff. I woke up at 2:30 today, 2:45, and I lay in bed for almost an hour before I said, okay, that's it. I'm up. And I'll probably, when we're done here, I'll probably go sit down on the sofa and pass out. See, I yawn as if on cue with that one. So anyway, it says we got 4 people watching right now. That's the small part of our base of members. So I want to thank everybody for being here, coming out early. And if you haven't made an appearance in the chat room, go ahead. Come on in. It'll be fun. And we're going to open this up to the public after a little while. I just thought we'd we'd take the first part of this to say, this is you guys, this is the members, these are you people who have, oh, we just lost somebody. This is you people who bought memberships. And I want you to know that I think of you and that I appreciate that. And so we're going to come in a little early or just with some private stuff for us. And I want to talk not so much, I don't want this morning time when we do it to be me talking to you guys, although I can't really include you in. You know what I'm going to have to do? We're going to have to set up some Zooms. I'm going to get my Zoom account zoomed up, and we'll do some Zoom calls with specifically for members. And I think that that'll be fun. But I don't want to talk to people during this morning hour, but I want to talk about stuff and get your input. I have this little book. That's two little books, actually, that are sitting on my bookshelf. And I got these years ago. And one of them in particular, now I gotta see when this was published. See, this even got, oh, it's my daughters. They wrote in there, Bryn and Abby Roberts. I don't know who wrote that. That almost looks like Rainey's handwriting, though. But this book was published in 2004, and it is Looking for God in Harry Potter. Now, the reason I got that book, not that I was overly concerned about that issue, but 2004, that was when I was still in very early struggles with my ex-wife. I had won custody of my kids, and I always say that happened in 2001. Well, that's when we went to court. I think the actual final ruling on that came down early in 2003. So, where it was the official, even though my kids were already living with me. And so this is right during that time that I picked up this book. And I picked it up because my daughters loved Harry Potter, like most kids growing up in the early 2000s. And in 2004, my daughters were 12. And they were avid readers. And it's like we would buy the new edition of Harry Potter, the $35 big, thick hardback book. They're waiting for a year for that book to come out. It comes out, we get one copy, and my daughters actually, they went to their room and they would read a chapter and give it to the other one. They kind of drew straws. I don't know what they did, rock, paper, scissors or something, to decide who got to read the first chapter. And so they read it, and then they passed the book on to the next. And they went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for 2 days. And they read that whole book. Roger is asking, are the lakes frozen solid up there yet? I enjoy ice fishing, but I haven't been able to for a couple of years here in in northern Indiana. Yeah, they're kind of frozen. They probably will be after this week, safe enough to go on. There was just something on the news last night. I walked out, and Rainey was cooking, and the kids were playing, and we just have the news on, local news, and it showed an ice house. And say this is the ice house. You see this ice house tipped and in like this in the icy water. And they're saying it's not quite time yet, folks, to put your ice house out on the water. Now, maybe way up north from here, maybe. Northern Minnesota, I think you might have that. I mean, they had, get this, yesterday, they had overnight lows of 53 below zero with the wind chill factor. I don't think it was actual air temperature. Although there have been times in this area where we've had 70, 72 below zero actual air temperature. Now, that is on a rare occasion. That I remember that temperature from back when I was in seminary. So we're talking the early 80s. So we haven't had, I don't think we've had anything quite that cold since that one time. But, that's pretty darn cold when you start thinking about that. 72 below zero. Of course, we also had that same, the reason I remember that, is because I was working with the youth at the church while I was in seminary, and the church was always open, and we had out of a congregation of about 500 people that would generally come on Sunday mornings. We had about 12 people showed up, and the pastor, I remember, was talking to everybody. He says, "Well, thanks for coming out on the cold, or in the cold." And he said, "We just want you to know we're always here." And it was we had a very informal service. But I remember that we were talking about how they were clearing 7 and 8 foot drifts away from somebody's garage that morning so they could get out. So pretty crazy when the winter takes over up here. Now, I know that the weather is cyclical. I don't know when we're going to hit one of those deep freeze cycles again, but it's been rather warm the last 20 years. Not exceedingly warming. It's not a global warming thing. It's been a little up and down. The trend has been warmer. Now it'll trend lower. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Audrey, all I know about ice fishing is what I learned in Grumpy Old Men series with Lemon and Methau. Yeah, that was filmed right around here too. I think I've mentioned this before. The bar that they hang out at in Grumpy Old Men when they go into the little tavern, that is a place here in St. Paul called the Halftime Wreck is the name of the place. And it's an Irish pub, and they used that pub for the movie, which was pretty cool. That's some serious cold. Yeah, Roger, ain't that the truth? Carly's sister lived in Duluth, Minnesota for 20 plus years. She finally bailed out of there a few years ago. They had enough. Tried Florida for a couple of years and ended up back here. I love Duluth. It's about an hour and a half north of here. And I love Duluth. And that makes me think of something. Minnesota, you have Lake Superior. Let's see, if you were looking at a map from where you are, Lake Superior in the north kind of comes down to this point, and you're in Minnesota here. And right at the point is the harbor of Duluth. And now Duluth is on the Minnesota side of the line. You cross the line, you go over to Superior, Wisconsin. You're in Wisconsin at that port. And it's all pretty much like one big urban area. Northern, how would you say it? Northern Lake District urban. It's not like downtown Minneapolis or anything like that. It's quaint. It's nice. I like it up there. But just yesterday or the day before, there was somebody. Who was it? It was Rainey's uncle's brother. So what that makes him to Rainey, I don't know. Rainey's uncle, his brother, was in Superior, Wisconsin. Now, we have in Minnesota, I say we, I'm from Minnesota. I live in Wisconsin. Minnesota has Governor Walz, who is one of those hardcore Democrat leftist governors who has everything over there shut down. The restaurants aren't open. This is why Rainey's work has been so bleak the last month, is because he shut down all the restaurants, and where she does her massage therapy is in Stillwater, Minnesota. Right, it's a river town, so it's right across the border. The river's the border. And so everything's shut down over there. And so there's nobody out doing restaurants. And she's got some massages today, which is nice because there are some people staying at the hotel, the Water Street Inn. But all that to say, Governor Walz has shut everything down. He's the big masker. And I don't care what you think, pro or con on that. The point is, he's one of those governors that shut the whole state down. And that's right across the border. Now, we're in Wisconsin. We're not shut down. We have a liberal Democrat governor who has tried to do that, has been resisted. He's got the mask mandates up, but nobody listens to it, really. And everybody's kind of like, hey, we're grown-ups. We know how to handle this. We know how to handle staying healthy. Restaurants aren't closed down, thank goodness. So here's the story. is that Rainey's uncle, his brother, was out to eat the other night in Superior, Wisconsin, right across from Duluth. And who does he see eating at the restaurant in Superior, Wisconsin? You guessed it, Governor Walz. He's with his little entourage, and they're eating dinner out, a Christmas dinner. And you know why he's eating in Superior, Wisconsin? Because he shut down all the restaurants in Minnesota. So there's some more of that hypocrisy for you that you see that's going on the left side of things. So I'm describing your grandmother. Yeah, my grandfather was very leftist. My grandfather was actually probably communist. Now, he passed away back in the 90s. He had leukemia and some other things where he was starting to get dementia. He was only in his late 70s. He was 78, I think, when he passed away in 95. World War II vet and all of that. And he's the guy that had the little island that he bought in the late 70s. When I was in high school, he bought a piece of an island down in the Honduras. It was British Honduras back then. And then they changed over somewhere in there. They just became Honduras. And, it's Caribbean. He was 30 miles off the north coast of Honduras, or the Bay Islands there. And he bought a big piece of land on one of those little tiny islands. And he never developed it. He lived on the neighboring island. And on Roatan was the name of the island. At the Sandy Bay settlement, lived on the beach on a house on stilts. And so it was gorgeous down there. But that's the guy. Yeah, you got Governor Gruesome, Audrey. That's right. But my grandfather, he was very much staunchly liberal. So liberal that I don't think we even had the words progressive back then. If that was a thing, we weren't, I'm talking about the early 80s and stuff like that. And when he passed away in 95, we didn't quite emerge out into that. Excuse me, but he was a communist, and he was a union organizer in the 50s and the 60s. And so in Ohio, and that's the kind of guy he was. But he was a good man, too. So Carly's getting antsy. She says, open this thing up to the public. Banging on the gate. All right, let's do it. Let's go public. There's nothing special this morning about being... let's see, let me find it here. Nothing special about being private, other than I wanted you to know that as members, that I was doing this for you guys. All right, there we are, open to the public, and the live chat is on and save. All right, we are now open to the public, so anybody can come and find us now. Carly, come on in, and you should be able to just get here from your computer. So you got the first 23 minutes, guys, private. And it was only the three of us. I think it'll be different when membership really builds up and we have a lot more members that want to do this sort of thing. So let her in. There's the chant. As I stand on my balcony overlooking my people. And they're all out chanting with pitchforks. Let her in. Let her in. There's always something special about being a member, no matter what. It doesn't matter if there's perks on or not, Scotty. Yeah. Thanks, Roger. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys being a member. So, happy Christmas Eve, everybody. And so, now that we are public, we'll see what kind of, if we've got people that are going to come in, draw some more people in. So, I want to join the conversation. Are you there, Carly? Are you there yet? Are you finding it? Is it public yet? She can see the video, but the chat is still members only. Okay. That's the opposite problem. I'm going to look at that live chat again. Live chat enable. Oh, I see. I forgot to toggle off members only. Save. Boom. Now she should be able to chat. Give it a try, Carly. You should be able to. Members only mode is off. So, I'll always support you. Well, thank you, Audrey. I appreciate that. And there you are, Carly. Yay! Good to see you. And by the way, as long as I've got just a few of you in here, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Something we haven't really talked about, and that's like Rocky and me. Everybody, I get people that ask me, "What happened to you and Rocky? Did you and Rocky break up? Are you having problems?" Everybody assumes that because we're not doing shows together right now, that there's a problem with Rocky and me, and there's not a problem. Rocky just decided that, he's working on doing his own thing. He's building his own network. He is branding himself. And he might be moving down to Texas soon. And he's going to be joining all those radio guys down there, and which he's already part of. And he's got other interests that are going on outside. He's doing this TV thing, which is he just told me yesterday, it's a fortune. And I said, boy, building up so you have revenues enough is going to be the hard part. So he's working on it. So Rocky and I did not have there was nothing negative between Rocky and I. It was just all of a sudden one day, Rocky said, this is a few weeks ago, and he just said to me, he sent me a text, and he said, it was a Monday, and he said, I won't need you this week. I've got interviews lined up. And I'm like, oh. I said, why don't you want me at the interviews? And we didn't even talk about that for almost a couple of weeks before we got together. I think he was afraid he was going to hurt me. And that's maybe more than Rocky would say to you. And he was embarrassed about it, and he didn't want to talk about it. And he just tried to slip into it, and it was so abrupt that it seemed like there was a problem. And there wasn't really a problem at all. And we still talk all the time. We still share nude photos of our wives. I thought that would get your attention. That's a joke. So, we still talk. And we just don't talk as much because we're not doing radio together every day. So for those of you who had a question about that, there's no problems between Rocky and I. He's moving into a much bigger thing. He's building a company of his own, and so he's doing his own thing. It would be just like anybody else where you say, you got a couple of guys that do radio together, and then they decide at one point, hey, you're going to go pursue your own thing. I'm going to go pursue my own thing. And now I've had my own thing for 20 years, but Rocky is building something much bigger than I've ever done. I just done radio shows. And so he's working at building a huge network. And so there he is, and he's doing his thing. And I wasn't a contributor to that or an investor in that. So it was all his interest. It's all his baby. So that's what happened. I had just even yesterday, somebody asked me, I think there are some people who are chomping at the bit to get information because they will write me even as late as yesterday. Hey, are you and Rocky okay? And but then there are other people who know us very well who haven't said a word, which tells me they already know. So and it's not a big deal. So there it is. So let's see. I don't know what you're ha-ing at, Roger, but there you go. Steph says, hey, Audrey, do you sleep? And I would ask the same thing of her. I think she sleeps between midnight and 3. So that's my opinion. Yeah, you got 4 hours of sleep last night. All right, Steph. Yeah, I did about the same last night, I think. I went to bed around 11 o'clock. And I remember waking up at 2:30, and my 11-year-old is still down on the sofa watching movies. And I'm like, son, you got to get to bed. Oh, I go, come on. It's 2:30 in the morning. So get up to bed. I said, just shut that off. You can watch the rest of I want to watch it. Can I watch the rest of this? No, you go to bed. You can watch the rest of it tomorrow, another day. So, and so I got up at around 2:30. I'm laying there and I tried to go back to sleep. Didn't work. And so I was up about 3 to 3:15, something like that. I was up. And then I came downstairs and started doing stuff. So I had a bowl of Fruit Loops. I know not the best food in the world, but I had a salad last night, so I figured Fruit Loops was okay today, and so that's what I ate. And yeah, what the fuck is sleep? Exactly. So hopefully we're getting some of these YouTube problems worked out, by the way. I don't know about the copyright junk. If you've noticed when you come into my videos, when they're pre-recorded and I've got the music at the bumps in the beginning and closing and in the middle, you're seeing it on YouTube. I'm getting copyright hits on that music every single day. Now, I have paid for and I have a license, an all access license from the company that made that music. And and I've even written to them and they said, "Yeah, you've got the license, you're good. We don't know why YouTube is giving you copyright hits." And they said, "There's not anything we can do about it." They said, "All you can do is just show them the documentation," which I've done. And yet I still keep getting copyright hits. And I dispute it every day. I send in a dispute. And now I started using, this is just, I don't know how interesting this is for you, but I started with the new music 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago today, I think it is. Yeah, that's 24th. So on the 10th, when I put out that video of Rainey and I announcing the memberships. The memberships have only been in existence for 2 weeks. Join, and you'll see it right beneath the window. There's a join button. I think there's one on this live video. You'll probably see a join button because I haven't been hit with any kind of copyright because there was no music in this video. It just went straight live. And so I've been fighting this for 2 weeks. And there's an organization that YouTube wrote me back because they don't do any kind of personalized service. They wrote back and they said, well, we aren't responsible for the copyright hits. That's a third-party organization, the Hawk, Haawk. So I started looking that up, and I'm finding chat rooms all over the place and message boards talking about how there's a hell of a lot of people out there that are pissed off at Hawk because they're doing this to a lot of people. They're putting copyright claims on something that is either copyright-free music or somebody owns the music. Or it's somebody's own song that they wrote and they put it on and they're getting copyright hits. So, and fighting it has been ridiculous with this organization. So, YouTube says we have nothing to do with it. They're the ones who, it's an independent third party and they're doing the copyright hits. And I said, I actually asked somebody at YouTube yesterday via email, of course, because you can't actually talk to anybody. I said, if this Hawk organization is an independent third party and you have no control over what they do, how is it that you've given them the authority to put a copyright on my videos, restrict my monetization of videos, pull down my join buttons on those videos, and nobody can join through those videos anymore because they're not monetized? I said, that's a YouTube thing, isn't it? How is it an independent third party that you say you have no control over can do that to my account? Can't you override that? And of course, you don't get any answers to that because you can't really talk to anybody. It's like trying to call Facebook if you have a problem with Facebook. So this is, these are the things, this was the whole thing with, if you heard that Trump vetoed the military bill, and everybody is now, of course, criticizing him because he's not pro-veteran and all of that. You know, it's all politics because none of that's the truth. He vetoed it because the 230 thing was in there, which basically says that the big conglomerate corporate Silicon Valley people like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, Google, there was something in there that said it was taking away, was stripping their right to act without impunity. And that they could be sued. They can be held accountable for not letting people speak their minds, for censorship and stuff like that. And Trump has said, I'm not going to support this bill because that's in there. I want that stripped off of them. So that's the reason, is because of this big issue with the Silicon Valley people and how basically it's Silicon Valley's controlling elections, but they don't really have any accountability. They aren't being held out there as, it's like church work. If you're a church and you're tax exempt, you know how you can lose your tax exempt status really quick? By coming out and campaigning for one candidate or standing only for one candidate during an election. That's dangerous ground for these tax-exempt religious organizations. But YouTube can do it, Twitter can do it, Facebook can do it. They don't come right out and campaign, but you've seen how they've acted toward one side or the other of a political issue, or how they block people, ban people, shadow ban people who support a side that they don't support. So anyway, that's that. So Roger Rabbit finds out after deep research the music company selling the rights to the music is actually owned by Hawk, and it's all part of one big YouTube scam. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I did accuse YouTube yesterday a couple of times in my emails, going back and forth to the techs that are supposed to be helping me resolve some of these problems. A big thump over there. I don't know what that was. Maybe it was just the cold outside and contracting in the window. I noticed that my curtains over there are partially open. A couple hours ago, they weren't when I was in here. And I went out and I made coffee and stuff. I came in, now the curtains are open. That's interesting. Haunted? Got chills that are going through my... Look at me. Do I look like I'm emotively moved by that? But look at my whole body. It's got chills in it right now. I was just thinking, too, by the way, I'm going to switch gears dramatically here. I think most of you have heard the one story that I have of when Rainey and I were dating. And, that's different. It's not like we were courting and we were out dating. Hey, would you like to go to dinner with me? And I have flowers. We were basically living together. But she had her own house and I had my own house on the other side of town. But she had a roommate at her house that got mad because she never saw Rainey anymore. Rainey was at my house. And so we were sleeping one night, and this is back in 2005. This story, if you remember this, we're laying in bed, and I want to show you something. I got a visual aid for this one. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. If anybody goes, where's Scotty? I'm only going to be gone less than a minute. I'm going to go grab something. I want to show you something. It goes along with this story. So hang on. Okay, I'm back already. See? Remember how I told this story, and Rainey and I have joked about it before, about my old blanket. This now sits out on the sofa. And anybody who sits on the sofa can wrap up this thing. But we're in bed. This is 15 years ago, almost 16 years ago now. And the blanket is ripped off of us, just whoosh, like that. And I remember in my half sleep, I bolted up and I grabbed the blanket and pulled it back over us. And that's where I laid down. I looked at the clock. It was 4:44 a.m. I don't know what the significance of that is, other than somebody told me later, well, that's 4 is the number of angels. So, and I've talked about this blanket before, tried to describe it, only because salient feature of this story is the heaviness of this blanket, that it wouldn't just slide off of us in the middle of the night. It got yanked off of us. And I was thinking about that this morning when I was laying in bed between like 2:30 and 3:15 trying to get back to sleep. And I don't know why that was in my mind, but it was. But here, I wanted to show you this blanket. I have had this blanket for, and it's more than just a blanket. This thing is right now. Now, this is heavy. It's a heavy blanket, and it just happened to be sitting out on the sofa. So here's this blanket, and it's suede on the one side. No, this is a California King. So look, I can look, something spilled on it. That's nothing untoward. It's probably something the kids spilled on it on the sofa yesterday. But look, I can't even go from end to end with this. This is how big this blanket is, and it's square. So if I stretch out I'm 6 foot tall. So if I stretch my arms out here, it takes me almost, so this thing is about 8 foot by 8 foot, something like that. And it weighs a ton. And so it's got the suede on one side and the pile lining on the inside. And you can just see by the bulk of this blanket. Now, I had a big California king-sized bed, and this was on it. And so Rainey and I are sleeping, and it was, 4:44 in the morning. The blanket got just ripped off of us. And the reason I wanted to show you this, because I just happen to think it's there, makes the story interesting to have a visual. This blanket is heavy. You can see how heavy that is. I took this blanket in the morning. We were trying to figure out how much of that blanket would have to have been off of us already for the weight of the blanket to pull the rest of it off of us. So we experimented with it, and we got it to a point where there was just about 2 feet on the corner, a triangle of the blanket still hanging on the bed, on the corner of the bed, the rest of the blanket off, that the weight of the blanket slowly pulled the rest of it down off. This heavy blanket was yanked off of us. And so now people can go, oh, skeptical. I know what I experienced. I'm not a dumbass. And so it was interesting. But I was thinking about that when I woke up this morning. I'm not sure why. And I was thinking, it seems like it was almost as if that presence is still here, that person, that whatever that was. And I felt that even in bed. And I wasn't afraid of anything, just like I am now. But I had that chill that goes up the back of your arms, thinking about that. So, hey, Teresa, how you doing? Dang, women not doing their job, says Scott Lowry. So I missed something in the conversation there. Yeah, there's coffee. Who doesn't have coffee? I have my coffee in my Harry Potter mug. Got that at the bookstore a while back. You didn't get a notice, Teresa? Well, the notice went out to members only. If you remember, you should have gotten a notice because I set it up and uploaded it. And it's only on here. And I didn't put one up on Facebook because I'm still in the middle of my Facebook jail time. I've got, I think it said this morning, I've got like 18 hours left of the 3 days. So it'll be sometime this evening before I can actually post on Facebook again. But Space's Water's got to be here. I just saw Audrey said, hey, Space. It's got to be Space's Water. I think. Who's here? Hey, Space. Hey, Space. I'll just say that too. You've never received a member notice for any of the morning coffee shows. That's funny because they're there. There's a community tab where I can put up something for that. And when I put up the video or I set the time on it, I always click reminder. So maybe that's my own personal reminder. Yeah, nice to see you too, Space. And so that's weird. I'll look into that. You're supposed to be, as members, getting private member messages. That's odd. I'll double check that again. So I'll see what's going on with that, is what I mean by that. So I got kids that have come in my office. They use my desk. And I come in here and I'll find all kinds of junk all over my desk, food and plates, drinks. And what do I find right now? I just stepped on it. Gum stuck to the bottom of my foot right here in my office. That's what my kids do. Now, we've talked to them about that before. Office is off limits. Sometimes we put the office off limits. You can't go in there. You know why? You left all your dishes on my, you spilled your soda pop on my desktop and didn't wipe it up. There's candy all over the floor, candy wrappers. Came in here one day, Ellery, my 6-year-old, my Amazonian child, not at all fat or out of shape or anything. She's a wiry, active little kid, just tall and big. But she eats candy. It's like we just stop buying candy sometimes. It's like there's a candy bar or little bits of candy around here now. But she would find the candy after Halloween. The candy bowl. They had their own candy bags. We usually put it in all of it in a communal bowl. But I came in here one morning, and there had to be 25 wrappers on the floor underneath my desk. And I look at her and I go, "Were you eating candy in my office?" "No." I said, "There's candy wrappers all over the floor. Those aren't mine." I'm like, "Well, you know what? You're the only person who throws your wrappers on the floor." I've watched her do it. She'll pick something up and she'll rip off the wrapper and just toss it over her shoulder. And I'm like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey." I said, "That's the wrapper that if I didn't see you do it, you would tell me later that you didn't do it." There's just no conscious thought of it. That's why she thinks she might not be lying. She'll throw the wrapper. She didn't even know she did it. So teaching her to use the garbage can has been the task for the last 2 years. And when kids don't do what you tell them to do, what do? Can you take a limb? No. We're going to start cutting off your fingers at the digit, Oh, one gone. So, like my son Flynn, we've been on him to clean his room. I'm not talking white glove and bleach wipes and stuff like that. I'm talking about pick up your room. Organize your stuff for at least 3 weeks. But then the time before that was a month. The time before that, a couple of weeks. It's like, son. And one of the restrictions Rainey put on him was you cannot be on your devices, your game devices. He's got like 10 of them. All these little gaming things. It's from, things that are official, his Switch or his Nintendo, all the way down to these little things we find at garage sales for $0.25 that have the little green, gray screen and there's no color, and he'll play games on that. I'm like, I stack them all up. We finally had them last night. Bring them all down. Put them on the coffee table in the living room. It's a big mound of gaming things. And we were laughing. He was even laughing about it. We got him laughing about it. But it's like, these are off limits until you finish your room. Then we'll find him down. He'll take one of our phones and he's playing a game on. I said, "Are you addicted or something? Are you that addicted to playing a game?" And he's got a friend of his that's, pardon me for putting it this way, folks, but a friend of his who's his age, a fat kid, but he's fat from, it doesn't look like what I would call natural genetic fat. This is the fat in an 11-year-old kid who is so lazy that he won't go outside and play, and he sits on he's got all his headsets and all this gear and all of this stuff for his gaming, and his mom just lets him do that. There was something about it. He put in something like 800 hours. I don't know where this information came from Flynn or somebody. He had 800 hours over a 6-month period on one particular game. And it was just ridiculous. And I told Flynn, this will not be you. This will not be what you do with gaming. So, Tracy, how you doing? 4 equal arms, Celtic cross, Templar cross, compass, directions. I'm missing what I'm assuming I could figure out pretty quickly what you're talking about there, but missed some context there. So let's see. So anyway, that's updating you on a couple of things. And I don't know where I was going because it's just morning coffee, not going anywhere. Kids are out of school, so I don't have to be out of here at 7 o'clock in 10 minutes, 11 minutes from now. So we'll just go for a little bit. We'll go till we feel like we're done having morning coffee, and we'll move into our days. How many of you have to work today? Hey, Matthew, good to see you. Season's greetings indeed. And so happy, I was going to say 4th of July. Why did that come to my mind? The 24th of December. No, I'm not losing my mind. I'm not losing my cognitive awareness. That just popped into my head. The 4th of July. It's like, it's not the 4th of July. It's Christmas Eve. So happy Christmas Eve day. So, my coffee, spooned coffee. Are you talking like a French press or something? Or just boiling my water and straining it into the hot water? I've done that. No, I've got a coffee maker, and I've got a bean grinder, and I grind my beans. Right now I'm drinking Starbucks Cafe Verona, and I throw that into the grinder every morning and grind her up and do it. I love my French press, though, and we broke it, so I got to get a new French press. Maybe I'll get one for Christmas. They're not expensive. You can buy them for $8. You can buy them for $38. It all depends on what you get. So, you guys know what a French press is? It's where you boil your water, and then you let the water sit for a minute, and then you put you grind your beans, kind of a loose grind instead of a tight grind. You put that in the bottom of the carafe, and then there's a plunger that goes on the top. It's a metal round piece and full of holes, and the stem, you put that in over the top, and you pour your coffee down or the hot water in there, and you press it down. It's a French press. And you let that brew. Well, you let it brew for about 4 minutes, and then you press it down, and you've got clean coffee up on the top without grounds in it. That's I was going to say the shit, but I didn't want to talk that way this early in the morning. That's coffee. So that's what I like doing with my coffee in the morning. Space. So that's what I prefer. You do it proper then with your coffee. Yes, I do, brother. I like doing my coffee the right way. I'm a coffee purist, just like I'm a Scotch purist and a beer purist. We go to the little local, we're in small town Wisconsin here. And so do you think I can go in and find a Guinness? I go out, my doc likes to go out and have beers with me. And so he'll call me up and he'll go, "You free? Let's go have a beer." And so all they have is like they've got some Leinenkugels because it's more a local beer. They've got New Glamis, which is what's that called? It's got the cows on it, the spotted cows. They've got lots of IPAs and lots of hoppy stuff that tastes like almost like grapefruit. And that's what they have. They have the light beers, Miller Lite, Budweiser Light, all of that. What I call NASCAR racetrack redneck type of beer. That's what they have. I have beer, I'm about 12 of them, and I might get a little buzz off of them because it's light beer. Goddamn. Damn liberals, give me another Miller Lite. That's the way it seems. But I like Guinness. Now, Guinness is a heavy beer. It's not really a beer. It's a stout. I like Guinness Stout. I also like beers like Newcastle's Brown Ale. I like Fat Tire is a good one, if you've never had that. So I like some of those beers, but do they have any of those beers in my local pubs here in town? No. Nobody carries that. And if they do, I don't know which one does. But the one my doc and I always go to, it's a nice pub. It's a bar. It's not a pub. It's not a pub. It's a bar. And so they don't have it. So I don't get to drink my dark beer. So I'm a purist about my beer the way I'm a purist about my coffee. And I always have a hard, fast rule about beer. If it's yellow and I can see through it, I don't drink it. Only on rare occasions. If I'm really hot and parched, there are sometimes a nice light IPA goes down really nice. But I prefer my headier beers, my stouts. So there you go. Yeah, I love those beers, Audrey. Guinness is a meal. Yeah, I'd say Guinness is like drinking a loaf of bread. I'd enjoy that too, Space. Having a beer with you would be awesome. Lots of pubs are closed nowadays. Not here in. So you're over in England. You have too many pubs. They're closed nowadays in England, and we have too many pubs, or used to. Yeah, I hear that that's a problem. We have here in the state of Wisconsin, we're pretty open. We haven't imposed that across the river in Minnesota. We were talking about this earlier. Across the river, we have the governor over there shut everything down. And so what's funny about that is a relative of Rainey's, it's a repeat for a couple of you, saw Duluth, Minnesota, and Superior, Wisconsin, up on Lake Superior, north of here. Big, not a big urban area, but it's a city area, port town, 2 port towns, but one's in Minnesota, one's in Wisconsin. There's, a mile apart. And somebody, a relative of Rainey's, saw Governor Walz of Minnesota, who's shut everything down. He's got the tight lockdown because of COVID on the state of Minnesota. There's no restaurants open. But he, with all the restaurant closings, what did he do? He was seen by one of Rainey's relatives. He and his entourage were having a Christmas dinner gathering at a restaurant in Superior, Wisconsin, across the border into Wisconsin. He went over where the governor hasn't shut down the restaurants. Well, if it's bad to be in a restaurant in Minnesota, isn't it bad to be in one in Superior, Wisconsin? So there's part of the hypocrisy of things. So, New member show coming soon. Roberts Pub Live. Oh, dude. If we start drinking on this show, I did a little bit of that with Jimmy Johnson. We had booze, brews, and bros. And booze, B-O-O-S, boo, because it was a paranormal thing. It was supposed to be. So, yeah, Steph, it is a big joke. It's nuts. So, anyway. What was I going to, I pulled this book out earlier, and I told everybody I saw this on the shelf a little earlier. This is a book I got when my kids were watching the Harry Potter movies, reading all the books back in the early 2000s. I started talking about this, and then I drifted onto something else. I said, maybe I'll hit it when everybody's in here. But this is a book that I got this for the sole purpose of my ex-wife at the time was giving my daughters a lot of crap about watching the Harry Potter movies and the Lord of the Rings movies. They were, at the time when this book came out, they were 14, but this was right in the height of, and they were voracious readers, and they would read all the Harry Potter novels, and they lived Harry Potter. They still do to a certain extent. They're big proponents of, they want to take our whole family down to Universal, to the Harry Potter stuff down at Universal in Florida, and as well as Disneyland and stuff. My kids can afford to do that. Thank you, daughters. And so, but all that to say is that I got this book because their mom was giving them grief about reading her. She wouldn't allow them to bring their Harry Potter. She'd confiscate their Harry Potter books. She wouldn't let them watch any of the movies, certainly wouldn't take them to any of the movies, but they lived with me full time, so we always did the movies. And we had a tradition with the Harry Potter movies and the Lord of the Rings movies. Our tradition was on opening day, we would go to the opening show, which was always midnight of Thursday, before what people felt was the opening day was Friday, but it was always Thursday at midnight. So you were Friday at midnight in the morning, 12:01 in the morning. So we'd always go to those midnight shows. That was a tradition. We got together with a bunch of my friends from the festival and people like that were all into these movies. We would all get together and we do these. And my daughters, of course, were part of that. And I only told them the only way that I will start doing that with you, you still got to go to school in the morning. they were only, when the Harry Potter movies were out, they were like 11 and 12 and 13. And so at the time, when they would come home from school on Thursday, I'd tell them, you go and lay down for a few hours. You go to bed and I'm going to wake you up. You don't get to stay up and go, because I want you, after you go to this movie, go back to bed at home, and you're going to have to get up at normal time and go to school. And I wasn't strict. I just thought it was the right thing to do. I'd probably be a little less strict about it now. But so we would always watch those movies. But their mom had a big problem with it. So I got this book, and I wanted to see what this book had to say. And it's called Looking for God in Harry Potter, because their mom, after the divorce, went all fanatical religious. I know there was a time, this is a story, it's way off topic, but it's to illustrate my point. My 3 older kids, their mom, my ex-wife, gorgeous woman, blonde, blue-eyed, always in great shape, but she was a little nutty, as some of the stories I've told before. And why do you think I got sole custody of my kids? It wasn't because of my purity. It was because she more lost them than I won them, like they were a prize or something. But you get what I mean. So there's one day, my son Sam, who is now 20, he'll be 20 in about a week. He was 4. And we were living in an upstairs duplex of an old house in the suburbs of St. Paul. Well, actually, it was the inner city of St. Paul. And he's sitting, the windows are all open, it's summertime, and he's on the sofa, which is below the front windows. The whole end of one of the living room was all windows looking down. And he says, "Hey, Dad," he says, "Mom's outside," his mother. And I said, "No, she shouldn't be." It was something like a Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday late morning. And she is. And so I walk over to the sofa and I look out the window, and sure enough, there she's down on my front sidewalk. And she's calling up to the window. And now get this, and you can imagine the setting. It's gorgeous outside. And it's late summer, I think it was. And here she is. She's dressed in these cut-off shorts, denim shorts that are really high, and she's wearing cowboy boots, and she's got a plaid, like a denim snap button cowboy shirt tied into a knot in the front, so she's all midrifty, blonde hair, and she's kind of standing there, and she's got the finger in the mouth going, "I was just wondering if I could come up and see you." And I kind of looked at Sam, and I'm like, I couldn't have an adult conversation with him, but I thought, okay, what's up? So I went down, and I came out onto the front step, and I said, "Sure, come on in." And there's my neighbor who was next door. He was doing something in his yard, younger guy, and he looks at me like, because he heard the whole exchange. I came over. Can I come up? And he's looking at me. Here's this hot blonde in cowboy boots and way too short cut off denim shorts, Daisy Dukes, and shirt tied in midriff, blonde and all that. And he kind of looks at me over what he's doing. He kind of goes, and I go, and I told him later, I had to fill him in, that's my ex-wife. So, so she came up, and the story I'm going to tell is she had gotten into some trouble. She's nutty. She was working at the elementary school in the town we lived in Wisconsin. I'm now in St. Paul, and I have custody of the kids. And she apparently had bit a kid's finger. Kid was poking at her, and she bit his finger. And of course, she got released for that. And she was all worried. She was kind of hiding out. She was wondering if she could stay at my place. I'm like, "Sure, come on in." I said, and I gave her the bedroom, and I slept on the sofa, and nothing happened. And I didn't want it to happen. Although I'm a guy, if anything had happened, I probably would have been fine with it and lived with it. But that's where my son came from. We were already in the middle of divorce, and she walked in the room naked and said, because I was at the ranch picking up stuff, she walks in naked and says, "We can do this one more time before the divorce is final, right?" And I'm like, yeah. And of course we did. And that was, my son was produced out of that. He was born into the divorce process. So, but this is the woman. But the story I'm telling is the way she turned after the divorce. I had to go out of town and do some photo shoots for somebody in Detroit. And I was going to be gone for 3 days. And she said, well, why? And I had people lined up to come and stay with the kids. And she said, well, why don't you let me I'll stay and I'll watch the kids. And I'm like, okay, all right, if you want to do that. And before I left, she said, before you leave, and she comes up and she puts her arms around my shoulder. She said, I want to pray for you. I'm like, okay. And I remember my daughters, who were at the time, they were 10 or they were probably 11, maybe even as old as 12, but they're standing over behind her. And she puts her arms around me. She starts praying, dear Heavenly Father. And then she starts, she starts talking in tongues. And she's got her eyes closed and she's got her arms around me. She's talking in tongues. Now, I don't want to mock anybody's real gift, if that's a real gift they have from God. But I knew this woman very well. And I thought, what are you into? And, but I let her go on, and she got her eyes shut and she's talking in tongues and praying. And I glance over at my daughters in the background, over my ex-wife's shoulder. And they're like, we don't know, Dad. She's getting weird. And so, but that is the way she got. That whole story was to illustrate that. There were two sides of her. There was the side that absolutely hated me. And then there was the side that was like, can we have sex and get back together? It's like, no. Now, I wasn't dating Rainey at this time. This was probably a year, maybe 2 years before Rainey and I ever met and got together. So this is like 2003, 2004. We met in 2004, Rainey and I. We didn't start getting to know each other until 2005, and we started dating. But that's the reason I got this book. Was I got this to give this to the girl's mom, or my kid's mom. And it's called Looking for God in Harry Potter. Is there Christian meaning hidden in the best-selling books? And it's by John Granger. And I wanted to just talk about this for a couple of minutes this morning. It might be a good book to pick up if you know anybody that has problems with that. I had another one here as well that is on the shelf next to it. It's called Harry Potter, Narnia, and Lord of the Rings. What you need to know about fantasy books and movies. And this is written, I think, also in a very Christian perspective, this book. And it's by Richard Abanes. He's the author of Harry Potter and the Bible. So, which I don't have that one. And he's talking about, even on the back cover, it says, fantasy can help children see with spiritual eyes, says Richard Abanes, best-selling author of Harry Potter and the Bible. It confirms the reality of good and evil, but is every fantasy story appropriate for everyone? And this even-handed exploration of the books of J.K. Rowling, C.S. Lewis, and J.R.R. Tolkien, as well as the films based on their writings, Abanes, a fantasy fan himself, answers key questions. What is inspiring and healthy in these works? What is misleading and harmful? Do I need to be concerned about the occult influence from fantasy? And how do movies and merchandising impact kids' minds and so on? That's his book. And now my delusion, says, or dualism, says Matthew. So I want to see some of your comments, by the way, here. As we started talking about this, I get into not looking very closely at the chat room. Scott, I agree. So many medical benefits as well. Can't go wrong with what's so natural in here for a reason, says Carly. You must be talking to the other Scott. I can only imagine you're talking about natural medicinals, herbs and things. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. I'd like to see both Disneylands in America. My dad visited both and took some awesome photos, says Matthew Sainsbury. Great place. Great places. My daughters, who live in North Carolina, they go down to Disney World twice a year at least. And with the COVID, they haven't gone as much. So, obviously. And they go to Universal down there all the time. Let's see. Yeah, it's like 8 p.m. the night before, says Steph, about going to the movies early. Let's see. Really hot memories, says Matthew. Teresa says, what the fuck? Oh my God. I don't know what you're responding to there. Sorry, I didn't see it when it came up, so I could respond to that. Probably the craziness of my ex-wife. Yeah. So Scott says, crazy is fun is the bedroom, but not in any other setting. Yeah, there is that. And sounds like she was trying to some kind of magic over you. Maybe so, Space. Maybe so. Now, I know in 2007, when Rainey and I got married, this would be about 3 years after this, 3.5 years later. Rainey and I had already been together for 1.5 years, and we ended up getting married. And she didn't know about it because I didn't invite her. I didn't invite my ex-wife. I could barely have conversations with her to line up what time she's coming to get the kids for her weekend. And so communication was ridiculous. But at times it wasn't. There was times she would call me at 6 a.m, 5 a.m, just to talk. I was praying this morning and God told me I need to turn a new leaf and talk to you and blah, blah, blah. And, and there were times, and she called me, it was, I think it was the week after Rainey and I were married. We got married in a little ceremony on the back patio with 5 people present. And my friend Brad Hart, who some of you have seen him sometimes in the chat room, he's a minister and he married us. And so all that to say, she called me up. Error. It's not letting me clear your... It's not letting me clear your post, Steph. And crazy sex is hot, she says. For some reason, it won't let me clear that, and I don't know why. It gives me an error. So if there's other moderators in the group, if you can clear Steph's... if you're seeing that it's hiding it right now, go ahead and... you can go ahead and clear that. It just does that automatically. It chooses certain words and it stops. I don't have any words set because it's an adult chat. But as long as you don't boil bunnies afterwards, yeah, exactly. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I did get this book. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to look at a couple of things in this book. If you look at the... now, this is the different book. This is the Looking for God in Harry Potter. What it says on the back of this book, everything you've heard about Harry Potter may be wrong. Are J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books dangerous gateways to the occult, as my kid's mom thought? The literary equivalent of satanic fast food? Satanic propaganda disguised as children's fiction? John Granger, Christian father of 7 homeschooled children and teacher of the great books, decided to get answers to these questions because his kids were eager to read the best-selling novels. Using his knowledge of classic literature, philosophy, theology, and Christian tradition, Granger has decoded what he believes is the secret message of the Harry Potter novels. A powerful message that could explain why the books have captivated the imagination of an entire generation. Looking for God in Harry Potter is a must-read for parents whose children are already reading the Rowling books and who want to know more about what the values of the books teach. Teachers and students who want to better understand the literary elements in J.K. Rowling's fiction, as well as the frequently overlooked theological references in her books. And parents, teachers, and youth leaders and ministers who want to use the novels as an opportunity to talk with kids about how to evaluate any work of fiction and about Christian answers and the big questions of life. And of course, then the tag on the book, whether you love Harry or hate him, you'll find Looking for God in Harry Potter to be fascinating, thought-provoking reading. Who knows, you may even change your mind about Harry. And I started reading this book. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I had wanted to read this and give it to their mom. And there's some really good stuff in here. And I thought, if you are a parent, now most of the people that listen to this show probably don't have a big problem with Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings and all of that. But this has, in the table of contents, the first chapter is Magic, Fantasy, and the Christian Worldview. The sorcery in Harry Potter supports biblical teaching, not a practice of the occult. Second chapter, God's Army versus the Servants of Satan. When Harry Potter novels revolve around the central conflict of good and evil. 3, the hero's Christ-like journey. Harry's adventures take him through life, death, and resurrection. 4, the alchemy of spiritual growth. The story cycles are built on the stages of transformation. Chapter 5, one person, two natures. Doppelgangers point to the struggle of dual natures and their resolution to be the God-man. 6, Christian answers to big questions. Surprise endings suggest a remedy for the evil of prejudice. Chapter 7, the triumph of love over death. The mystery of death meets the ultimate answer. 8, the question of identity. Harry defines himself through choices, change, and destiny. 9, evidence of things unseen. The symbols in Potterdom are powerful pointers to Christian reality. And it goes on. That's only half the chapters in this little book. So this book is well worth reading. I might take this book and parse it, and we'll talk about this one day in a lot greater detail. So I wanted to present that this morning and talk about that. So Steph says, crazy sex is hot. That stood out because of the big all caps crazy. You're right, Steph. It is. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So I remember when, and I may have told this story to you once before, my ex-wife, again, this is back to that era. This is just before Rainey and I were dating. So it had to be 2004. I had moved from the duplex in St. Paul to a really nice townhome over in the west of Minneapolis and the south and west. It was a nice place, big. And my daughters had the big room down in the downstairs. It was a finished downstairs. But there was one room that didn't have carpeting, and it was just the highly polished, what's the word? Not urethane. There was something else. Shiny floor. It was a concrete floor, but it was shiny. Cinder block walls that were all painted. But the rest of the downstairs was finished. It was sheetrocked and painted and carpet and all of that. And all the modern facilities and so on. And I gave that big room in the downstairs to my daughters, and we put twin beds for them over on one side of the room, and they had the whole other half of that room. And that room was the width of the house. It was like 20 feet wide. And remember, this is a townhome, a twin home townhome. So it was the side-by-side homes. So it was like 20 feet wide, maybe 22 or 23 feet wide, and about 20 feet deep. So it was a huge room. And so we put their beds on one end and a carpet and a little rug and lamps and all their pictures. And it was gorgeous down there. And then they had room for a big sofa. And I remember I got that sofa. It was white. This is Rainey and I didn't even hardly know each other at this time. But coincidentally, I knew her boyfriend at the time, and they had just broken up like a few months before that, and he was moving and he needed to get rid of this sofa, and I came and picked it up. So there was a connection. It was a weird connection. Rainey and I were laughing about that the other day. She said, yeah, that was my sofa, but I left it with him and you got it. So, and that's what ended up in the other half of my daughter's bedroom. But all of that to say, this is where we were living. See, visual is very important to me, getting the visuals of things. And their mom came to pick them up. And the girls weren't home from school yet. And so I invited her in to have a cup of coffee. And she was in one of those modes where she was very anti-me. And, it was a roller coaster. And she hated that. And what was playing on the TV, but the end of... Sam had wanted to watch, and all morning I'm working in my office and he's watching Lord of the Rings movies. Now he's 4 or 5. And it was the end of, if you ever saw this, it was the end of The Return of the King. And if you remember that movie, there was a scene at the end where it's the view. You've been in your home when it's been like this. It's like not bright and sunshiny, not dark and solemn, but it was quiet and looked like light from an overcast sky was coming in the windows. And you're at Frodo Baggins' house, Bag End, and it's going. The camera is slowly going down the hallways of this curved hallway, and Frodo's doing a voiceover, and it reveals that as it comes around that he's sitting at the desk and he's writing, and my wife walked in on these last scenes. You remember the 20 minutes of closing scenes in Return of the King that wrapped up the trilogy. And so here's these movies that she thought were horrible for the kids, satanic. And this is a side of Harry Potter. And I invited her in. I said, hey, this is planned. I said, I know that you've got problems with the kids watching these. I said, you should watch this. I said, just while you're waiting, you don't have to, but sit down. I'm going to go make some coffee. Why don't you watch this? And she's watching she said, it's okay. And she sat down and this is playing and it comes in on Frodo. And so we're doing the voiceover and the soft music is playing. And he makes a statement about something. How do you return to life the way it was before all the evil had happened? And he said, and he's talking about that. And I don't know the exact words of that, but if you look up the scene, go to YouTube and when you're free and look up the closing scenes of Return of the King, and you'll see that scene. And it was very moving, and the whole thing was moving. And Samwise stays when Frodo leaves on the ships at the Grey Harbor, and you see Samwise returning home, and his wife and small child greet him. And Samwise is doing his little closing thing for the trilogy. And she sat and watched that for about 20 minutes, and it was very interesting when it finished, and my daughters weren't quite home yet. It finished, and she had tears in her eyes watching that. Here's somebody who was dead set against these movies being satanic, and here she finds that she is gripped and moved by them emotionally. So, which to me set again very hard the principle that things are always different when you involve yourself in them than if you judge them from the outside. And that's what she got the ability to do. So, anyway. That's going nowhere. It's just coffee talk. It's morning coffee. Good morning. Those of you I haven't said good morning to, good morning. My wife is going to get up in 8 minutes. She's got to get up at 7:30 today, and because she's got a couple of massages. She's got one in Stillwater at, I think, a new hotel that they lined up with her Two Loons massage. And if you haven't seen her page on Facebook, just go to look up Two Loons Massage. The numeral 2 Loons, Loons, Two Loons Massage, and you'll see her page. There's not much up there yet, but we've been trying to build that bit by bit. Go join the page just for fun. You may not be here to get a massage, but in the local vicinity, but go ahead and check it out. And her and her friend Kendra run this little business together. And so, matter of fact, do I have one of her cards? I do. I think I showed this off once before, and you've seen the logo. I've had it up on my Facebook page recently, but this is Rainey's cards. I did this logo for her, and then I had these cards done for her. So there's Rainey's card, and it's got this, sorry, the light catches it funny. It's got a satin, or they call it a mother of pearl finish on it. So there's her Two Loons Massage logo, and then on the back, of course, it's got their number for setting up massages, and all their information is on there. So you can go take a look at Two Loons Massage over on Facebook and check them out. And so she's going over to do that this morning. She got a 9 o'clock appointment to do, they're doing a couples massage, I think, which is a man and woman. And so she and Kendra, divide up who's going to get who. And they do that massage. And she's got another one back here in New Richmond somewhere. So I think a private home for a couple. So that's pretty cool. So she's got 2 massages this morning. And so she's got to be up in a few minutes. So I'm probably going to. The kids don't have to be up yet. I don't think they're up yet. The little one usually runs in here when she is. But so we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. So morning coffee, we don't do this every morning. We do it a couple times a week at least. And boom, Scotty, says Carly way back. And I'm not sure what you were talking about. Movies can touch your emotions. Yeah, maybe that's what you're responding to. Matthew Sainsbury said that. You're too tired to type fast, said Carly. And beep, boop, beep. Here's your change for cab fare. And go into sleep mode. Yeah, exactly. Cool breezes for Audrey this time of year. Yeah, it's cooler down there, even down there. It's not hot. So what was Teresa saying? Maybe for you guys, not. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about. Looking back to see Scott L is a greedy sex guy all for himself. You finish the race every time. Well, it's like we used to say, when we were trying to be dumb and charming, pick up chicks back in my younger days, we'd say, things like, we'd say, now this is unsavory, slightly unsavory if you've got children around, only slightly. We'd say, it's short, but it's thin, and it gets the job done in 2 minutes or less. And then you're all on your own. You got free time. And we say, if you can't keep up with us, we're okay with that. And so that was our weird ass, dumbass pickup lines. But Teresa says, maybe for you guys, not. So anyway, so tune in for Barry and Steve, if you can, says Teresa. Put your link in here, Teresa, if you need to. If people don't know how to find you. And everyone check out Teresa's show on Mondays, Andromeda 7 Portal. And I have yet to have a chance to go over there, I have to confess, Teresa. I spend so much time in here on this stuff that when I'm not doing my show and Rainey sees me over here, she's like, what are you working on? So, honoring veterans. So there you go, folks. So here we are. It's Christmas Eve day. It's 7:27. My wife is going to be up in 3 minutes. Her alarm is going to go off, and I want to make sure she has a good send-off. I'm going to go make her some coffee if she wants some. And so you guys, thanks for coming in. I appreciate that. We started off members only, then opened it up about a half hour later to the public. Thanks for being here. And if you're not a member now, I would love to have you become a member. Just click on, there's a little join button down below the window here that you can click on. And come and join, become a member. It costs you a little bit of money, but it's only $2, $5, or $15 are the options. And you can see all the perks and see what they're worth and see what you get at those different levels. That helps us. And hopefully it makes this of value to you as well. So come and be a member, and we'll take it from there. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Space. Love you in England, too. So I'm going to be over there sometime soon, I hope, once all this COVID stuff goes. It's spoiling all my trips. I want to go with Rainey. We want to go over there. And so we'll see if we can make that happen, hopefully in the next few months. We'll be out of this thick time. It's probably going to have to be spring. So love all the members in this room. I'm glad that you're here. I appreciate the fact you're here. Somebody already left. So goodbye, whoever left. Missed you. And so as you go out, know that I appreciate you being here. Be here tonight, 9 p.m. Central Standard, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. West Coast. And for the Intrepid Radio program, we're going to continue our series on the holy language, and also more on Enoch tonight. Dig into some strange stuff about Enoch and the book of Enoch. So we'll see you there tonight. Thank you, Steph. No, thank you. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to go warm up my coffee, and warm up my wife before she goes. And you all have a good day. And I will see you here tonight. Spread the word. Become a member if you're not. And I look forward to seeing you a little later. Have a good Christmas if I don't see you again before that. See you later. Have a good day. I send you off. Ski-daddle. Bye. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I think the chat will be up for a few minutes after I end. So goodbye. See you.